Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
We go live yet again racing in the BISC GT3 Championship. It's been a while, but we're officially back at the circuit, the Jerez. And for the next round of, like I said, the BISC GT3 Challenge, welcome in to today's session. My name is Tristan Herbst, joined by Adam Reed in the commentary box with Sam Fitzpatrick, our producer, in the back end. We've got some high stakes for today's racing, and unfortunately some penalties being administered from our previous round. But Adam, welcome in for your first time here at the BISC GT3 Championship. How are you feeling for today's run of events?
One, of course, kind of my first time covering a race at Jerez, so it's massively interesting to see, you know, this circuit in iRacing. I'm honestly really looking forward to it because it's such a twisty, difficult circuit. You know, there's so many corners to this, and it's going to be a lot of momentum changes. So I think one of the most kind of famous bits about Jerez that it used to be the old testing venue for Formula One back in the mid 2010s and in other places. So sure, I'm really intrigued to see how this is all going to go. We've got 17 cars on the grid, so for sure I'm really looking forward to this one. It's going to be absolutely amazing.
Indeed it is, and we've seen it at the previous rounds how amazing it's been, but we're already at round 4 of this championship. already at the halfway point of the BISC GT3 challenge for 2025. But before we get into the fun stuff, let's go through a couple of the sponsors that have made today's racing happen. We've got our two major sponsors lining up with Bowden's own premium car care products and Benji's YouTube channel coming in as the two title sponsors of the event. We've also got some secondary sponsors that have been with us for the past 3 rounds and joining us yet again for round number 4. RaceForge will be here for all your racing stats and analysts, plus private league management needs for anything that you might need when you think about running a race league, exactly what the BISC GT3 is being run on right now. Hyperspec is also here. They currently have the newest sim gloves on the market, created by sim racers for the sim racers, so make sure you check those out. Jack Ashton Sim Coaching, as it describes in the name, sim coaching for all your coaching needs. Hair Forum is here, as well as RBMX Designs for your sim racing livery custom designs. So awesome stuff to have the support being shown there by a couple of the bigger names. But we are well into our qualifying here with 2 minutes just underway, and Peter Ferraro is out on track trying to get those laps in. He did just miss out on the win at the previous round, and currently Ben Snell will lead the championship with a very tight lead, but with still 4 rounds left to go, there is a lot of time to make up here.
There is plenty of opportunities all throughout the season where driver can definitely gain and lose time and points as well. That'll be, the major thing in this championship. So, everyone's going to be going out there looking to go at full chat, see if they can maximise their points for sure. But yeah, looking around the grid, I'm sure we've got some pretty talented drivers out there, but it's all about stringing a season all together.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, heading into this round, like I mentioned at the start of the stream, we will be having our first carryover penalty of the season for Mr. Ivan Vantagiato. Unfortunately, having a little bit of a scrap in the previous round, has been administered a overbalance penalty, which means he will only have half of his qualifying time. So you can currently see him sitting in the pit lane. He's got to wait until that 6-minute mark before he's allowed to come out and get a lap on. So that's a good amount of time and a lot of practice that he'll be missing out on to get that fastest lap in. We do know Ivan Vantagiato having quite a lot of speed in this event, and just unfortunately missing out on another 6 minutes that he'll have to sit and watch his opponents. But for the time being, Ben Snell will currently sit in P1. No times on the board just as yet, but we'll have that P1 standing from his championship standing in first position as it stands. Peter Ferraro, also some great news for him, will be joining the, I believe it's the LTM team. Some of the drivers, Ivan Vantagiato in that team and a couple others. So now joining in with that team and further extending their dominance out on the grid. So incredible to see. It looks like he's still rocking the BIP esports livery for this one, but I do know he has switched over there. You can see it LTM on the side, so just a bit of a team name switch up there, but a part of the LTM esports team trying to drive them on strong. But our times are officially coming on board, and Devyak will be starting it off with a 141.2.
Yeah, strong times put in so far for Devyak. I think the drivers at the moment are just going to be looking to try and get their tyres into the operating zone. You've not got a long time left in this qualifying session. It goes pretty quickly, just 12 minutes, and especially when you're pushing so hard just to try and get a lap in. The time really does eat away, and every single time you're going around, the time to get shorter and shorter and shorter, and then by the time you know it, you've either set a great lap time or you've not set one at all, and the checkered flag has already come out. So really intrigued to see how that's going to go. But yeah, just looking around, it's going to be definitely interesting. We saw the top 5 all completely different manufacturers. The only other one is the Ferrari of Angeli, and he's of course he's now sitting down there in 6th, down into 7th, because the Porsche Dowsett has just gone and put himself up into P4, 4/10 off the lead Aston Martin. That is a beautiful livery there from Ben Snell, the Marlborough red and white, really harking back to the Senna and Prost days when they were fighting away at McLaren. The Porsche has now gone to the top there. The first driver, I think, no, in fact, the next driver to enter the 39.6 is Don Brett in his Porsche. So hopefully there'll be a decently close qualifying in this one, which I do expect. They're all going to be pushing these limits, and these are probably, I'm guessing, some of the best GT3 drivers in Australia.
Yeah, absolutely so. And remember, it's a little bit of an odd time zone for some of you around the world, especially if you're in the European or American district. But in Australia, this is the prime time for racing. It is about 8 o'clock at night in the Oceanic District, but for the Europeans, it's about midday, and I believe America is somewhere in the early mornings. But this is prime time for the Australians to be driving. We do have a couple of other drivers, such as the French Polynesian of Guillaume Dombré, who's managed to top the timing board, like Adam was saying, with a 139.6, and really dominating the Charger in the Porsche. So it seems to be a good pick here for Jerez, or otherwise known as Circuit de Jerez. But for the time being, what can Ben Snell and Peter Ferraro do? They've been two contesters in this league as of yet, and Ben Snell just 0.02 of a second off from that pole lap. Peter Ferraro just a little bit further off, though, with 0.5 of a gap towards that lead. A couple other drivers still trying to set those times, but only now will Ivan Vantagiato be coming out to get those first flying laps out. When everybody else has got some times on the board, he's only getting out to get that car nice and warm. We can see he's out on a lap for the time being, but he's only got about 5 or so minutes left to get that lap time in. What can the drivers do with the rest of that time? And Ben Snell will top the timing board 3.5 faster than Dombré, and now showing that Mercedes dominance. Ben Snell currently leading the championship, so it does make sense to see him up there. Deviak will equal it out yet again with the Aston Martin to bring it up into that final podium spot, and Peter Ferraro just being pushed slightly out from the Slipstream Autosport team there from LTM. And there we never mind, he's managed to snuggle himself back up into the top 3, just 1/10 off now from Ben Snell's time. So lots and lots of competition here around the board for this race, and we'll have to keep on watching, though. With about 4 minutes or so left of qualifying, those times are going to slowly start to become crucial. The track is going to start to evolve, and those tires will slowly start to become ever more prime as the more laps these drivers do. A little bit of a squabble there, it looks like, between Dante Oliva and one of the yellow 296s, but Dante Oliva actually winning in Imola. What can he do here today at Jerez?
It will be interesting to see what some of these drivers can do. Of course, I'm pretty much joined in here at the last second, so I'd have no idea really about some of the standings or the races prior. But I think what these drivers are looking for, it sounds quite cliche, but they're just looking for points, really. They're just looking to see if they can potentially just, extend their points advantages, see if they can potentially gain a little bit of form. They want to go into the next round of the championship with a really healthy mind and go into some, mid-season form and gain, as I say, many points with many points on the board. There's so much that these drivers can do, so they're going to be really keeping their heads down. There is Ian Noxie in the Valkyrie Racing Team Ford Mustang. I'm sure the Fords have been going pretty well there. Don Brett goes back up to the top with a 139.262 in his Porsche, so pretty good stuff there from him. And it looks like Ian Noxie will stay he go down to 7th, it seemed like, so still some improvements there with not long left to go on the clock.
Yeah, Ian Noxie, round 2 at Autodromo, was struggling quite a lot in that Ford Mustang. We did unfortunately see him losing out a little bit of time here and there in that car and just struggling to make grips come to standard. He did also have a little bit of network blipping, so hoping that all of that has been eradicated for today's race at Circuit de Jerez. But for the time being, it is all down to Ben Snell to try and counter-attack on Guillaume Dombré, who has taken away the throne spot of P1 in this provisional qualifying, but it's just 0.05 of a second difference between the top two. Peter Ferraro a little bit off, though, still about 0.2 of a gap between himself and Dombré, but what can he do, because qualifying is indeed still on. Ferraro has completed all the laps that he's got, though, so we can see him sitting in the pit lane. We've only got about 5 drivers currently out on laps that will count. We do also still have Ivan Vantagiato. No actual lap time has been rendered from him just as of yet, so possibly struggling with that car. Ben Snell will pull it into the pit lane and cancel off that final lap. On board, though, with Michael Dowsett in the Porsche, and looks like he's starting his final lap from what it looks like a 141.1 as his last, so 1.9 seconds around about from the drivers up in front, and actually Dowsett pulling the car in. But on board with the big Ivan Vantagiato in the Mercedes. I believe he was actually in a BMW the last time I saw him, so not too sure if he's had a bit of a car switch up, but into the Mercedes he will go for the Slipstream Autosport team. Unfortunately, still down in 17th position, not able to get a lap in. So hopefully in the next coming lap, we can see Ivan Vantagiato move a little bit up on that leaderboard.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's stay with him as he makes his way now round in toward the final sequence of corners. He'll head in toward the hairpin, just braking at the 100-meter board, getting the car rotated. It seemed pretty nice on the rotation. Got a little bit of bite in that Mercedes AMG as he'll cast his way over the line for the Slipstream Autosport team. Does he improve his lap time? It doesn't seem like in fact he does. He goes to 4th place, and that puts 2 Mercedes AMGs in the top 4. And it's nice to see those 2 Mercedes AMGs. You know, you don't really see them too often in iRacing, but you know, when they do have a driver who is, you know, known to drive Mercedes and kind of be able to kind of control these big beasts, it's nice seeing that kind of manufacturer up there for sure. You know, it's been a while since I've seen a Mercedes AMG up in the top ends of a scoring board for a while. So yeah, it's been a couple months, but yeah, nice to see those 2 really working well. So Snell's still 600ths of a second off pole as he's currently in the pit lane, and the checker flag will now fly.
Yeah, we talk about the Merc not being used a lot, but funny enough, in this league, the Merc currently leads that championship standing with Ben Snell on the forefront, but that is officially qualifying done, like Adam has just said, and we'll head over to the racing session in just a short while. The drivers will slowly start to come to the grid, but let's have a look at the starting procedure. Guillaume Dombre will be followed up behind with Ben Snell closing off that first row. Peter Ferraro will line up in 3rd with the Ivan Vantagiato getting a great final lap in there to finish off in 4th. Steven Deviak will finish 5th with Alex Benozzi in 6th position. Dante Oliva in 7th and Ian Noxie in 8th to close off that 4th row. A little bit further down though, Ben Mitchell, the league owner, down in 9th position with Anthony Eduardes down in 10th. Scott Boerman in 11th position with Michael Dowsett in 12th, closing off that 6th row. Nick Green in 13th with Andrew Cash down in 14th. Luke Broadbent in 15th, and Michael Angeli will sit 16th position. And closing off on the final of this leading standard boards is Adam Edwards from the SimForge sponsorship. He's actually here to race today. Unfortunately, not getting the greatest lap in there, 3.3 seconds down from the lead of Dombre, and will be starting all the way back in 17th position. It's going to be quite a recovery drive for him here, but as we slowly get started, we will be heading down into Curva Expo, the first corner here at Jerez, and our lights are underway. There is going to be a formation lap here for the drivers to get their cars neatly warmed up. You'll see the brake dragging will come into play to get those tires nicely warmed up. A little bit of swerving will come into play, but not too much in the GT3 class, as the drivers will slowly start to prepare. They want those nerves to be nice and low, because nerves is what breaks that confidence. So let's hope we can see a neat formation lap for lining up towards the start of lap number 1.
Indeed, these drivers are going to be really looking to see if they can just gain any sort of position. You know, it's the opening lap is probably the point where you're going to be closest to your opposition, especially when the field spread is of about 3 seconds. So definitely looking in toward the first couple of corners, just about keeping it nice and gentle, nice and calm. You know, don't be going too door to door, otherwise you're going to be finding yourself with a few collisions. But we now head to the line. I'll let you take it away, Tristan.
Heading to the line, indeed, the Porsche getting very close to the front end nose of Ben Snell's Mercedes. Is trying to make up from it though, but the Porsche has gotten a great jump. Dombre will try and pull away from this pack as fast as possible into Curva Expo. They go, trying to hold it. The Porsche will hold off neatly, but Ferraro will get the jump now on Ben Snell into the Michelin curve. What can they do? It looks relatively neat behind though, as everybody tucks in quite formally. Ferraro up 1 position, Oliva up 1 position. Unfortunately down for Alex Benozzi, but for the rest of the grid looking relatively clean. It's a great launch though for Guillaume Dombre, and he has been completely uncontested on this launch. It's a good fight though towards the back. Nick Green, oh, a little bit of bumping action there, and that's Anthony Eduardes, who's unfortunately lost the car. It's lots of bumper to bumper there, as unfortunately one collision has led on to another. Dowsett has been involved in that. Anthony Eduardes completely unrecovered in the sand, unfortunately, and that Mercedes almost looking like it's beached like a Formula 1 car and not able to recover as of yet. Deviak, a little bit squirmish there in his Aston Martin, will try and hold off from quite a strong force there. Vantagiato and Oliva, 2 very quick drivers behind, trying to get past, and it's a good dive up on the inside from Vantagiato, the LTM Autosport driver, trying to show his worth, but Oliva will make an overtake yet again. So Deviak, double position loss coming through these couple of corners. He's fighting now though with Oliva, but it doesn't look like he's going to be able to hold it around the outside. Oliva will go, and it's unfortunate contact on the grass. Oliva goes, and just one by one Deviak will get a bit of a tap.
Yeah, really unfortunate there. There's another car, and that's Ian Noxie there. That's going to be Spinozzi, who's unfortunately in his Ferrari had a really good start off the line, but unfortunately been involved in a lot of contact there. So Ferraro, Snell, then Vantagiato at the top 4, and then further down there's just been many changes. Could be saw Ian Noxie up in that top 6. I think that suspension does look broken. It seems. Look at this front split; it's completely bent up on that Ford Mustang in a 10-minute heat. You know, that's not the ideal way to go. But Dombre will be leading at a comfortable advantage. Was Ferraro, who will have no idea what's happened to his teammate, and will just follow through now with the rest here. Ben Mitchell's managed to get up into 5th place, and that's going to be really positive for the Lamborghini Huracan.
I was going to say, it's actually great to see yet another quite a unique car, the Lamborghini Huracan there of Ben Mitchell. Only Lambo currently out on the grid, and he's doing a great job as well to keep it up in the top 5. But you did mention a good point that we did unfortunately forget to mention. This is a double heat race. So we do have our first heat here, the sprint of 10 minutes. So fortunately, if things do go wrong, it's not the end of the world, and it is definitely recoverable for the next race. But it is still a good amount of points here in the sprint race that you can try and collect. It's only the top 15 that will score here, and so that is going to be the pusher for Ian Noxie. But let's have a bit of a replay here as to what happens. This is the starting crash that we saw on the start line a little bit there. You can see Eduardes goes around, Dowsett goes around a little bit. We'll go a little bit back though for you to see. So look up in front. There's Eduardes, loses the rear and just collects the rear side of Dowsett. Unfortunately, Dowsett screaming off to the side of the track, and a couple other drivers getting collected. Thankfully, nobody there to bump into Dowsett, and he can recover that car. But for Anthony Edwards, looked like he just lost all that. Eduardes just looks like he lost all the confidence and decided to rather return the car to pit lane, not pulling off of the grass there after that starting incident. Another replay though, you can just see it on board, clips the inside curb, and for the big Mustang, just not happy with it. He actually did catch the car, but with Dowsett coming on the outside line and getting a little bit of a tap, it just caused yet another over rotation. But that is a little bit of the drama for you there from lap number 1. But back on board with the league owner, there's actually another replay for you. Oh, lots of bumping action, and that's just super unfortunate. You were talking, Adam, about Spinotti's great start, and then just getting roped into such a hectic accident like that.
Yeah, it's exactly that. You know, super unfortunate, role place, wrong time. I'm sure if you ask them the classic Sebastian Vettel question, racing or ping pong, I don't think they'll be able to kind of decide which one was which. But Ben Mitchell still holding out in 5th place there, doing a fantastic job just ahead of that BMW. And we'll have a look back here to Alex Spinozzi, who's currently sitting in P10. He's the 3rd best of the 4 Ferraris out here as he chases down Luke Broadbent. Heading in towards a replay. This is Ian Noxie in the Valkyrie Racing team. Heading toward the right hand, we'll see. The BMW just completely loses it. He gets behind Spinozzi and then gets blocked by the Aston. He had absolutely nowhere to go. So that is where kind of the suspension damage came in for the Ford Mustang driver. We look back here with Spinozzi, who's just trying to chase down in a Ferrari that usually looks pretty good. It just seems like that Ferrari, all the Ferraris around here just look really comfortable. They look really good in the kind of the mid-speed corners, maybe not quite the low speed, but yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on some of those cars in this battle involved here. The Corvette in front is Luke Broadbent, and it seemed like that Corvette will be in a decent position, bearing in mind he started a little bit further down the field. He's made up a good couple of places, but he's staring down the rear wing there of Green in P8.
Yeah, that's Mr. Nick Green just a little bit further up in front. It is Corvette versus Ferrari. But, oh man, looking back at that replay, that was super unfortunate there for Spinozzi. He literally just got collected, and unfortunately, the starting of that crash by Dante Oliva, getting a little bit on the gravel. Luke Broadbent taking a little bit too much of that inside curb, but thankfully keeping the car nice and stable. And it seems like Jerez is causing a little bit of upset here with the curbings. We've seen a couple of the cars not appreciating it too much. We've seen a couple of spins due to it. And just hoping for the next 4 minutes, because we're well past halfway mark already in the sprint race. What can the rest of the drivers do in the time that they've got left? Spinozzi is unfortunately 3 positions down in this event, with Nick Green, a great recovery drive, currently the top driver in terms of positions made up, 5 places up, tied up with Luke Broadbent in 10th position. And so a couple good points on the board here for the lads who can keep it going. But up towards the top line, Dombre still completely uncontested. Ferraro has made a position up on Snell, though, which is a pretty important thing to mention. And he will be trying to keep that just ahead of Snell in the upcoming laps. But Snell will be trying to catch on a little bit further up in front. Vantagiato in 4th position will also try and get a little bit further up there. It is Merc versus Merc for the final spot of that podium. But who's going to take it is the question, because with only 3 minutes left, we're going to have to see how it goes. But here is the position overtake for Ferraro on lap number 1. You can see Ben Snell on the outside line going into Curva Expo. And, oh yeah, apologies. This is actually all the way in the beginning of where Ferraro got in front and just neatly tucking that Ferrari in, pushing Snell wide onto the curbs and leaving him nowhere to go but to tuck in behind the yellow LPM Ferrari. So great stuff, though, from Ferraro to get himself neatly up into 2nd place. Let's hope he can keep it, though, as he attempts to chase down on Dombre.
Indeed, so plenty of action in these opening stages, and it should be a pretty quick race. 10 minutes is not a lot of time for these drivers. We're already on to lap 5 here, so we'll probably be getting roughly about what, 7? Probably about 7 laps on this one, maybe even an 8 if we're lucky. But Peter Ferraro has really got the pace here. I didn't know if he'd be able to latch onto Dombre in his Porsche, but it seems like he's been able to just keep on tabs with him. Snell and Vantagiato, the 2 Mercedes AMG cars, have not quite been able to have the same pace, but if they are going to be able to grab a 3rd place and a 4th place, that would be amazing. And that was Ben Snell just leaping over the curb there. Very, very lucky to be able to, get away with potentially losing the rear of the car, but they can get back up at the front here. This is going to go to the end, and we've already got the white flag, so this should signify the final lap. Down in towards the right-handers, we'll have to see what Dombre is going to, if he can hold on to this one ahead of Ferrari. Looks like we've had a bit of an issue with Tristan, so hopefully he'll be back at some point. But down in towards the right-hander, will Ferrari try and potentially send it down at the dry sack, the hairpin on this one? We'll have a look here. He's still 2 tenths back here. Will he find the lunge here in this short race? Do you dare to do it? Do you dare to try? He goes around the outside, tries to switch back here on the Porsche. He'll be very much aware of what is going to be happening behind. You'll be having to think forward, see if you could just potentially try and get something going here. In toward the left, you'll have to downshift a gear. Ferrari's running out of opportunity to steal a win in this first race here at Jerez. And in towards the next sweeping corners, the chicane, could that provide an opportunity to kick on the gravel there for Dombre? But the chicane will be potentially one of those opportunities where either you gain momentum or you kill the momentum. Still 3 tenths is the gap, and on toward that last corner, I think Dombre is going to just hold on for here, and it would take a win in this one. But again, Ferrari searching for the inside. The gap wasn't there. Checker flag is out, and it's Guilherme Dombre to win for the first heat here in Jerez. He weaves in celebration, and a fantastic win just ahead of Ferrari. The 2 Mercedes AMGs on Snell and Vantagiato in P3 and P4. Good stuff there, with Ben Mitchell finishing home P5, grabbing the fastest lap there was Peter Ferraro, the Italian. So he will hope to maybe go a bit one better come the end of the race. It's Oliver Borman Benozzi finishing home in P8, with Nick Green and Luke Broadbent rounding out your top 10. We've got Cash and then Jelly with Dowsett and Edwards. With Edwards, and then we find Yak Noxie, I think, will be quite the way back in his Ford Mustang. And of course, we've got 2 Edwards in here, so yeah, I'll be pretty sure. I'm hoping they're related. Otherwise, that'll be a little bit strange, because I have had it before where we've had 2 drivers of the same second name, and it turned out they have no relation to each other whatsoever. So we'll have to see how this all pans out. But decent start to this one in the first heat. We wait for those last couple of drivers to go over the line, and that will round off our results here for the first race in Jerez.
And
What will this mean for the second heat?
And I'll jump in whilst Justin's just figuring out a couple of issues on his side. Hello, everyone. Yeah, that was a good first race, wasn't it, Adam? I thought that was really tight, really good performance there from Ferrari, who, yeah, I think that's probably his best sort of drive, I would say, of the season so far. So really impressive that he was able to deliver on that one. And of course, now we have the reverse grids for race 2. I think last time it was a full reverse grid, but I think other rounds it's been smaller than that. So we sort of wait to see sort of what it's going to be like for today. So there are the final results for race 1 of the day. Dombray at the top, then it was Ferrari, half second back. Ben Snell, of course, championship leader. Rare to see Ben sort of being driven away from, but that was what the case was. But he is so consistent that he won't care too much. His championship lead still very much intact. There was Ivan Vantagiato, Ben Mitchell, Scott Borman, Alex Spinozzi, Nick Green, Luke Broadbent, Andrew Cash, and then we had Michael Angeli, Michael Dowsett, Adam Edwards, Dante Oliva, Stephen Devjak, Ian Noxie, and Anthony Edwardes. Fortunately, it's not Edwards and Edwards. It would be very annoying if it was A. Edwards and A. Edwards. It says A. Edwards and A. Edwardes. So that is a slight life raft which has been thrown to us on that one, Adam.
Yeah, that's. I was thinking, that going to be? Yeah, how's that going to go? But yeah, we'll move on a little bit forward. But we will have the warm up. Again, these drivers will be able to get another sight around here. So, you know, maybe just be able to get a few things up here. And that is a beautiful livery. I wish I saw this earlier. Scott Borman, a lovely livery on his Aston Martin V8 Vantage. I believe it's the Evo version as well that's recently come out this year. That's a brilliant livery to have. Kind of the white, I think that's a camo kind of base with the white, red, and blue stripes. Really lovely to have. So we'll have to see how these kind of second race goes into proceedings, and of course we will get a reverse grid race this one. So we'll put the slower guys up at the back, put the slower guys up at the front, my apologies, still pretty early in the morning, but then we'll put the faster guys at the back and the slower guys more towards the front. So again, looking around to see if they can potentially grab any sort of information that they possibly can, see if they can potentially just, you know, open any opportunities in an anime livery as well. I didn't think I'd come across that during my commentary career, but huzzah, it's happened. Adam Edwards using the I'm not gonna give you any character because that's not kind of my forte whatsoever. So I'm gonna kind of stay away from trying to add on any more onto the livery, but we are going to get some great shots. I'm sure we have I think we might have a gallery team, but I'm sure if there is one, I'm sure the gallery team will be absolutely loving that. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, once again, a little bit of a shout out to a few of the sponsors as well for the series. Bowden's Own, Premium Car Care Products. Shout out to Benji's YouTube channel, of course that is what you're watching on, and make sure you know to subscribe and like the video, and then you can, you know, see more stuff, and also Benji's other sort of real life racing exploits that he explores, as well as in the sim racing world. So make sure to subscribe to the channel, and also thanks to Raceforge, Hyperspec, Jack Ashton Sim Coaching, Hair Forum, and RBMX Designs, who do sim racing livery custom design. So I don't know if that livery from Adam Edwards was designed by them, or maybe it was by another designer. But yes, that is, if you want your livery design, do check out RBMX Designs. Well, that is the little cool down, the little intermission established, and now we'll just wait for the session to take over. Of course, a much longer race 2 coming up for us, and we can go through the grid now. And we've got Anthony Edwardes on pole position, followed by Ian Noxie, then Stephen Devjak, Dante Oliva, who of course is one of our front runners, so we expect him to be near the front at the end of this one. Adam Edwards, Michael Dowsett, Michael Angeli, Andrew Cash in 8th position. In 9th position is Luke Broadbent. That's Green, Spinozzi, Borman, Mitchell, Vantagiato, Snell, Ferraro, and Dombre. So it's another full reverse grid, 17 cars. And this caused quite a lot of chaos last time out, actually, at Manucore, Adam. So watch out for that one. And I think we might have the wonderful tones of Tristan Herbst back with us. Tristan, are you there?
I'm indeed here. Apologies about that, guys. My ISP just decided now was the time to have a bit of a network dip, but looks like we're all back and ready to go racing. But looks like we're all good. We're starting the formation lap here of the second feature race. Thank you so much to Adam to holding all of that off for the time being, but it looks like we are officially back and ready to get started on the action. What was the results though of the feature race, of the sprint race?
I believe it was our
Dombre was the winner.
Dombre, yeah. Yeah, it was Dombre from Ferraro, from Snell and Vantagiato. So that was your top 4. I think also Spinozzi managed to make it back to.
Okay, great stuff. So looks like we are all back and ready then to get started on the second feature race. Obviously the much longer race and where points are going to count a lot more. Still only for the top 15 though, so they'll have to play their cards wisely. But starting off up in front is Eduardes, leading off in front of the pack with Ian Noxie just a little bit further behind him. We'll have to see who can hold on strong in the next coming laps. Onto the green lights we go though. It is down to the line for Eduardes, holding on strong and trying to hold off on from Ian Noxie a little bit further behind as well. It looks to be the likes of Steven Deviak, who's already made a launch up onto the inside line of Steven Noxie. What can he do though coming into the next couple of corners? And thankfully for Eduardes, he's managed to hold on relatively strong here with Ian Noxie just a little bit further behind him. The three of them seem to be pulling neatly away now from Oliva a little bit further behind them. But what can they do to hold on to this lead? It's going to be a tight one, but for the time being, it is Eduardes leading the race on strong in the green Mercedes.
Indeed it is, and there's a couple of incidents there at the back, but you know it's all nice and healthy. Down the inside we see one of our BMWs of Oliva, and looks like wide going is one of our Mercedes of Edwards. So they'll head their way now on towards the right-hander. The BMW getting pushed out wide by the Aston of Deviak. He doesn't want to hand over anything too much as Adam Edwards has now gone half spinning there, and really unlucky for him. He's going to go again. Oh, just in front of Ben Snell. Snell was very lucky to get away with that, and that's also looking like in the background. Dombre, he's gotten involved in the collision with Edwards, and that's not going to go down well for the Heat 1 winner.
No, definitely not going to go down for the Heat 1 winner, and he's completely lost that stride that he was able to pull. Obviously, with the reverse grid coming into order, he has lost out, unfortunately, there, but there looks to be more contact now on the grid. Unfortunately, Angeli, a little bit of contact there with Nick Green, but thankfully keeping relatively simple there. And looks like Angeli will move up one on Nick Green. It's a good dive, though, up onto the inside line now. Nick Green trying to recontest against Angeli. Into the next corner they go, and holding off as strong as they possibly can. But Nick Green will lead on strong with Angeli from behind. You can see the rear view camera now leading up towards the Curva Expo into Michelin. And with the green versus yellowish Ferrari GT296, and a little bit further behind, obviously the leader of the previous race, Dombre, will have the likes of Spinozzi and Burman a little bit further behind, trying to make a bit of a recovery drive here, as he is dropped off a little bit further down. But it's the same for Peter Ferraro. He hasn't been able to jump up like he would have hoped to. Ben Mitchell will also sit down there, but Ben Snell, I mean, look at Snell, up into 8th position, 7 jumps up already, and into the top 10 he goes. On board though with Dante Oliva as he tries to contest for that final spot of the podium, contesting extremely hard for the time being. Looks to be with the likes of Steven Deviak. Who's it going to be though? Holding into the next couple of lines. Dowsett is a little bit further behind as well, trying to join in on this fight, but Oliva will lead it out quite strong with Deviak a little bit further on behind. And there's a lot of switching going on in the background though. Spinozzi down 6 positions. What's happened to Spinozzi as he's into the pit lane? Ferraro will make up a position on that, and oh, that is a missing rear wing on that Ferrari. Let's have a bit of a replay though to see what happened here with Spinozzi coming in quite hot here. It looks to be with yet another, that's Angeli, and oh, a little bit of a tap there, being spun around, and oh, rear end completely planted into the barriers here of Jerez, and into the pit lane he goes. Super unfortunate there for Spinozzi.
Yeah, that looks like the Ford Mustang has gone around. That's live pictures as well for you. So that's not going to be ideal whatsoever there for the Ford Mustang. I wonder if he's maybe got a tap around, if he's maybe just lost it on him by himself. He's behind the Mercedes there. Lose it on the curb. You lose it on the kind of the sausage bit. And that was from second place, I'm being told in my ear. So he's done the exact same thing the Mercedes of, I think it was Snell, did last race, but it's just gone obviously wrong for them. So that's why. Oh, that's going to be Dante Oliva, the BMW, who's gone into the wall, I think. And looks like the suspension has gone on that. He's side by side there with the Aston Martin. Oh, dive to the inside of the Aston Martin Vantage. They don't collide on this time around, but I wonder if he's just, going to one, it seems like. Oh, that's going to be really unfortunate. And then double hit there, broke the suspension. I think that's going to be a tow back to the pits.
Yeah, that is super unfortunate there for Dante Oliva, and a little bit of pumping action coming there between Deviak. Not too sure who's going to receive a bit of a penalty there, but that looked a little bit nasty. Didn't look like your normal, ordinary fighting. And now with on board with Anthony Eduardes, who unfortunately in race number 1 got cut off on the second corner and decided to pull the car in and call it quits. And look at him now, up into first position. He's been sitting there since the start of this 35-minute dash and had been holding it consistently as of yet. But further behind, Michael Angeli, Ben Mitchell, a little bit further behind as well, trying to make up in this fighting action. Snell will move up into third position though as he makes a dive up onto the inside of Cash, and Deviak is going to join in on this battle. Cash loses a double position and Ben Snell is up 12 positions in this fight. Up into third place he goes. It's an incredible dash up towards Curva Expo as they try and keep pushing on towards Michelin. And look there, Wilhelm Dombre has been able to recover slightly. Up into ninth place he goes. A little bit of sand being tapped there and all getting pushed a bit wide there by Nick Green. That's a little bit of aggressive elbow to elbow driving there for the drivers, but Dombre thankfully still in a relatively safe position. Vantagiato now going head to toe with Cash, and Cash has lost 3 positions in the span of 4 corners unfortunately, and will lose out to Deviak, Vantagiato and Snell as they continue to progress up towards Dowsett and Eduardes in first and second position. But remember, there will be pit stops in this race. It is a 35-minute race with a mandatory fuel up stop, so there will be a lot of strategy to still be played in a race like this. Dombre, though, will sit currently in 8th position. Oh, and Nick Green loses the rear and off into the gravel he goes. Thankfully, he manages to save it from the wall and getting a little bit trapped up there in the grass for the Valkyrie Racing team. Oh, and almost making, he does make contact with the Inoxi, and that is a front bumper completely ripped off. It looks like it's back on our side. That's a bit of iRacing netcode for you, but I think there was definitely a little bit of contact between himself and the Inoxi.
Yep, that's seemed like there was maybe a slight tap, or maybe I think iRacing just had to kind of adjust their their damage model. There goes the Ferrari, just starts accelerating. You're so lucky. That was one of the ones where you just suck your breath in and you go, whew, when it goes badly. Oh, the Aston trying to go up the inside of Angeli. Angeli just holding it there for P9. That's Borman in his beautiful, I think, camo livery with the white with the stripes. He's trying to go now to the outside here, and he's on that kind of outside strip. He just doesn't quite get past this time around. He's really trying to fight at the high ends of this one. Look to go now onto the outside line, but he's trying whatever way he possibly can in that Aston Martin to try and get past the Ferrari. The Ferrari seems pretty quick though, so do not write it off whatsoever. This could be a really good defense here from Angeli, but again, searching for that outside, goes to the inside. Good move there from Borman. Can he get it stuck? And he will make that through. Fantastic move from the Aston Martin to put himself up into P9, but will the Ferrari come back of Snell, the highest ranked Ferrari compared to the 3 others that are down in 14th, 15th and 17th. Yeah, really good stuff there from that number 60 Aston, and I'm sure he'll be trying to push on forward, but he's got Don Bray next in that race-winning Porsche, who is now, 4 seconds up the road.
Yeah, it's a great push though. Like you mentioned, Eduardes is trying to hold off, but it is going to be Merc versus Merc right now in that top 3 battle. Dowsett has unfortunately lost out on second place to Snell and will eventually start to feel the pressure from Deviak and Vantagiato. Also, just a little bit further behind, you can see them trailing behind the red Porsche, slowly but surely trying to creep on and make an overtake count. But it is 13 positions up here for Mr. Ben Snell, chasing on towards the behind side of Anthony Eduardes. A little bit further up, Dombre will come in to pit, and Broadbent and Cash will make up a couple of positions due to that. So Dombre coming in for a little bit of an undercut here in the Porsche. It's relatively early to get that pit stop done and dusted, but let's see if it's going to work for him. He'll be in slightly cleaner air towards the backside of the grid and not in so much fighting action. But is that undercut going to work? Back on board though with Ben Mitchell for the BIP Esports team. He's unfortunately just holding off on that 10th position, finishing it in 5th last race. Can he do something again this race? He is only 1 position up and will have to try and make up as much as he possibly can. But with on board still with him, you can see just fighting on strong behind with a yet another Mercedes driver. Looks to be the likes of Adam Edwards, the new driver here for tonight's racing. But still keeping on strong. Deviak up into 3rd position just behind Ben Snell, has managed to get past Dowsett. Can Vantagiato do it? You can see he's putting the pressure now on Michael Dowsett. Will eventually try and get past him in the yellow LTM Mercedes, trying to find the outside line. Dowsett looking like he's conceding a bit here with a more conservative approach to these corners, and relatively easy overtake there for Vantagiato. Up into 4th place, he will go, trailing behind the likes of Deviak, but Dowsett will still be there behind trying to contest.
Yeah, there'll still be some competition for these guys. Look at that, Ben Snell up 13 places, Vantagiato up 10 places. It's been a massive day for the Mercedes-Benz team, the Mercedes-AMG team. They look to try and get themselves into the top 1, 2, 3. Ian Noxie now feeling the pressure. He's going to go door to door with Edwards there. That's a little bit supercar-esque, and through goes, looks like the Ferrari of Peter Ferraro. So I think he's now going to try and find a way on through here on Noxie. He's sees the gap but gets shut immediately. So yeah, Ferrari not going to be going through for P11 that easy. We'll have to see if he manages to maybe get a move down in towards turn 1 here at Jerez. Up the hill they go, hard on the brakes in toward the corner. Still have to try and compile the pressure on, but where's the next best place to do it? I think it's going to be down at the hairpin. We're now almost a 3rd into this race here, and there's been some pretty good stuff. I'm pretty sure we're probably going to have to get a pit stop at some rate.
Yeah, definitely. So the pit stops will be coming in. We've already seen it for Dombre calling in on a relatively easy, relatively early pit stop. But what is the rest of the grid going to do as a counter answer to that early pit stop? We can see most of them still staying out, and Jelly is feeling the pressure though from Ben Mitchell just a little bit further behind, trying to fight a bit further up into that top 10 slot before the pit stops have to become an activation. You can see Dombre down in 15th position, currently struggling to get that undercut working, but it's only really going to come into effect once the rest of the drivers start planning out that pit stop strategy. A little bit of sand though for Michael Angeli, and that's really going to sacrifice his speed into the next corner. What can Ben Mitchell do? And unfortunately just not enough to get around the yellow and black, the yellow and red Ferrari of Michael Angeli, but will still be really hot on the rear, contesting now up onto the inside line. Can Ben Mitchell keep this place? And it looks like indeed he can, and now pushing off really strong in front. Ian Noxie trying to make a bit of a recovery drive here, down in 11th position. Ferraro, one of the Foster drivers, is behind him now, trying to make a bit of a recovery race here from starting a bit further behind. And I mean, you can just see the differences there. 3.2k for Ian Noxie, 4k iracing there for Peter Ferraro, and Michael Angeli unfortunately in a bit of no man's land here, 1.4k irating. And so we'll slowly start to feel the pressure here. Ian Noxie makes a dive up on the inside line. It's clean, it's calculated, and he's up into 10th position. And Jelly pushed a little bit further behind, and now we'll have Ferraro trying to contest onto the back of him. So keep your eyes peeled in this fight, because it's going to get very close.
It will be, and that's kind of what we want in this racing action. We want to see pretty close racing, and that's exactly what we seem to be getting around Jerez. Again, a lot of drivers seeing that there's a lot to fight for, and some that are still just trying to maintain the positions. You can see their I rating in the left, on the left right-hand side. So you can see that it's still quite low for some drivers. Some are still not quite at 4K yet. Some are still at 1.1 there. Luke Broadbent in the Corvette, 1.1 for him. So you've just seen some of the experience of the driver, but sometimes it can just kind of get thrown out the window just because, they have, some may have previous experiences with other simulators. Some may come from, Assetto Corsa or Assetto Corsa Competizione, and there goes Ben Mitchell up the inside. He's gone up for P10 there. Good move there on the Ferrari, on the Italian, the now leading Ferrari driver against the sole Lamborghinis. That's Italian on Italian manufacturer on this one. They hopped their way over the curve. Lucky not to unsettle this one. But we'll see if Ferrari wants to try and come back. Maybe get a late dive bomb in toward the corner there. He does try it, but the Lamborghini holds him off once again with now 14 minutes on the clock. We still have quite the bit to go.
Yeah, still 14 minutes, like you say. We're almost at our halfway mark, but not just yet for the drivers to start relaxing on the end way of that strategy. So they'll still have to keep on pushing on strong here for the remainder of this race. Ben Mitchell, a little bit of a tap there, and Ben Mitchell has been spun round there by the looks of Edwards, or actually that might have been Ferraro actually, that has unfortunately taken Ben Mitchell up. Let's go have a bit of a replay though. And this is just a bit of a better angle, so you can see Ferraro pushing onto the backside of the Lamborghini, tries to take a relatively late dive down the inside, and just no space left there for Ferraro. There was nothing for him to try and contest there. Ben Mitchell had already owned the corner and just losing the rear. Unfortunate there for Ben Mitchell, almost making contact as well with the rejoin, but thankfully nothing as that. But back onto our live racing gameplay here. For all of you, Ben Mitchell will be pushed down a little bit further to 12th. Peter Ferraro will now be in that top 10 contention spot. Back onto the top, Anthony Eduardes has lost his relaxation because on the rear side, Ben Snell, 4/10 behind now. It is the two Mercedes versing each other to see who can battle it out and claim that throne position in P1. But for the time being, Eduardes will still lead it off, but it's going to start to feel close. Into Curva Expo, there go. Will Ben Snell try and make a dive here? Looks like he's holding onto that outside line and will rather try and benefit from the slipstream and keep it relatively clean. You can see the rear diffuser just there of Eduardes, and he's pushing on much stronger, trying to keep on towards the back of the green, black and red Mercedes just a little bit further up in front. And like Adam already mentioned, the good old Marlboro livery there of Ben Snell. What can he do to keep on pushing behind and keep closer and closer onto Eduardes? But a little bit more action. Ferraro has come into the pit lane to serve his pit stop. Is it going to be enough for this next dice though? We'll have to keep on watching as they push on stronger.
Indeed, he'll have a look down on towards that inside line, but I think he would just kind of break a little bit late there. The door opens up for Snell and he goes through. I think that was kind of just to scare Eduardes, and unfortunately for him, he kind of took the bait, and Snell up into first place here. The Mercedes AMG will run on forward and see if he can potentially go and take a race. And of course, pit stops do need to still be made here in this race, so just be aware of when they come back, because I think for Eduardes it might be worth trying to go for a bit of an undercut in this one. They won't be in the pits for too long. Of course, you can have the opportunity to switch to maybe 4 tyres. Don't say that to Denny Hamlin. He might have a bit of a horror show, knowing what happened a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, there's an opportunity to take tyres, there's an opportunity to take a bit more fuel, but we'll have to see how that kind of all pans out. Boardman up in towards the inside there of Luke Broadbent, goes through on the Corvette. So the race is starting to really develop in time here. We'll be really intrigued to see how this all kind of goes about and into the pits. In fact, comes Luke Broadbent. I hope this is not to retire. We've already had 2 so far with Spinozzi and Oliva. So I think this will be the first of the pit stops.
First of the pit stops indeed, and Broadbent comes in now, as well as Edwards, a little bit further down, not to be mistaken with Eduardes. They've got the same initial, but just one more E in Eduardes. But differences up in second versus down in 11th. And no tires being taken there for Broadbent. Looks like it's just going to be a fuel run for the time being. Edwards comes in as well, as you can see, just a little bit further in front in the big pink Mercedes, and out comes Luke Broadbent yet again. And drive through actually for Noxie now, unfortunately therefore exceeding track limits. That's really going to do against his time in this race. So down a little bit further, that's not going to be a great standing for him. And already down in 8th position, that drive-through is going to drive him even further back in this leaderboard standings. So keep your eyes peeled for Ian Knoxy and what he can do in these next couple of seconds. Mitchell gets a drive-through penalty as well. And that is just starting to escalate now with the track limits being extended by all the drivers. And really unfortunate there for all of them. As we see now, Vantagiato trying to push onto the inside line of Eduardes. Pushing on strong, though. He has been able to keep on strong, and Eduardes has lost out, it looks like. But here's a bit of a replay. This is Vantagiato on looks to be Steven Deviak a little bit further, a little bit earlier on. And did something happen here with Deviak? And as you can see, a little bit wide there onto the gravel. And that just opened the door completely for Vantagiato to take it. But looks like he might be losing it. Deviak is not going to let this one go just as easily. And unfortunately, a slowdown penalty there actually for Vantagiato. So that's exactly why we saw the catch-up for Deviak. Pushing onto the outside line, though. Into they go, and into the pit lane goes Ivan Vantagiato, cancelling off that battle. But now getting that pit stop done nice and early. We'll have to see how that plays for him. But back onto another replay here. Nope, this is live. Apologies. And into the pit lane he goes. Where will he come out, though, as he comes in for a relatively early pit stop? Actually, looks to be a drive-through penalty there for Vantagiato, just coming through and coming out. And apologies, he did. No, I don't think he stopped, actually. It looked like he just went straight through that pit lane. Oh, he did stop. Okay. So serving that pit stop relatively quickly and back out into the top 10 he goes.
Yeah, that was, I'm guessing no tyres in that one either. So just kind of a top up of fuel, and on his way he goes, Vantagiato. Very much looking at a top 3 here, but he does he find himself behind Eduardes? I believe he will probably, where is Eduardes by chance? He's already up in 2nd, so he has not pitted yet. So it looks like it's going to be a Mercedes 1, 2, 3 for now. Deviak, of course, was the one that got overtaken, but then we saw Vantagiato head into the pits, and there is Anthony Eduardes, our pole sitter for this full reverse 35-minute race, and Steven Deviak is looking pretty close here. I wonder if there will be very similar times, as into the pits comes Michael Dowsett in his all-red Porsche, and Anthony Eduardes does his personal best last time around, but this time it looks like Steven Deviak, 40.5 for Deviak, 40.8 for Eduardes. So there's still some opportunities there for the Aston Martin of Deviak to try and ruin the party. But yeah, we're looking at Michael Dowsett in that Porsche, who has made that pit stop, so that'll be mighty crucial in all honesty. So I think once they've made, as I say, once they made the stop, that will kind of count. I think once they go over the line to enter the pit lane, that's their kind of their check mark in a way, because of course Oliva and Spinozzi has basically both come in, retired on the spot there, and that's them still with the pit stop. So I think now Dombre is indeed in that correct position of P6, so I think he's going to be the one spoiling the party, unless Vantagiato, we know how pacey he can be, can catch him up here. But I think, again, Dombre has been so quick over the course of this one, as we see Peter Ferraro, who's been pretty unlucky this second race. He's still battling it within P10 range, hoping to try and force his way up. He's passing Nick Green, the green and black Ferrari, to two very similar cars, and I think he's actually got damage. In fact, in comes Ben Snell. They're very, very lucky to just avoid the wall, because every single time I've seen a car turn into the pits here, it just looks like they're about to smack that outside wall and damage their suspension. That will mean an even longer pit stop. Deviak is also in as well, so this is going to be make or break, I think, for these race leaders. As in comes Scott Boardman too, and he's not alone, Andrew Cash in there.
Yeah, so lots of the pit stops will be happening around about this time. We are well past our halfway mark in this race, and so the drivers will maybe start to feel it in terms of tire wear and obviously fuel load, depending on how much they took at the start of this race. But most will be needing to add a little bit more liters to their car to keep it going for the remaining 13 or so minutes of racing here. But Dombre has gotten a great undercut, because look at where he ends up after a couple of the pit stops have happened. Up into third position he goes, and now fighting on with Vantagiato and Deviak just a bit further behind. Ben Snell will still sit in second position, but Dombre winning the first feature race, now well up into that podium spot to try and contest for yet another win in this race. Can he do it? He's definitely got the speed to do it, but it's all going to come down to how the next 12 minutes go of racing. Onto lap 14 though for all the drivers. Deviak trying to push onto the backside of Vantagiato. You can see all the stops now. Eduardes, the only driver to not pull a stop. So Ben Snell also one stop already to his name. So Eduardes will unfortunately drop significantly down the pack over here once he pulls that pit stop in. Ben Mitchell and Nick Green also into the pit stop. They currently sit and looks to be coming out relatively shortly, but on board with Eduardes into the pit lane he comes now to serve that pit stop, and he'll unfortunately drop quite a couple of positions coming the end of this lap. Into the pit lane he goes, but overall a great stint from the driver to keep himself neatly up in that first position.
So we'll have to see what kind of happens after these pits up. Ben Snell, their potential net race leader, Dombre, has actually managed to put himself up some superb places. Ben Snell will go past the race lead. He's got up 14. Guilherme Dombre from the back of the grid, up to 15 places if he can just go ahead of Eduardes, which is exactly what he does, and then it'll be Ivan Vantagiato to potentially go through as well. But we'll have to kind of see how that all kind of works. And in fact, Eduardes stays ahead of Vantagiato, so hasn't quite worked there for the Italian in the Mercedes. But I think that there'll be a big opportunity to see what the Mercedes of these two look like in comparison to the Porsche. But we know how fast Dombre is, but 10 minutes is quite a difference here. But it's kind of a part two, because look at the timing here. We have about 10 minutes and 15 seconds left.
10 minutes and 15 seconds left indeed. Like you say, it's very short now and actually heading into our sprint race distance. But on to Ben Mitchell over here, and a little bit of a replay as to what happened. Let's see what happens over here for the BIP esports driver. Coming over the chicane over here, and unfortunately a little bit of a bump there and just being sent off of the track, and not what you want to see in a race like this. So Ben Mitchell, not having the best of luck in tonight's race, will move even further down into 14th position. But for the time being, Eduardes actually did not lose out a lot in that pit stop, and looks like the overcut has actually worked out for him to stay relatively competitive in tonight's racing, because a very, very short pit stop indeed, coming out in third position just behind Dombre. He does have the other Mercedes of Vantagiato just behind him now, so it's a little bit of pressure that he's going to have to face in the next 10 minutes or so of racing. But can he do it? He was able to hold first position for basically the entirety of this race so far. Can he hold third position and keep Vantagiato at bay with Deviak just a little bit further behind? Only time is going to tell. But through Curva Expo, you can see Vantagiato looking up on that inside line to potentially make an overtake. On board though with Peter Ferraro, with Cash just a little bit farther of Andrew Cash, and just overtaking him actually up into 8th position. Now trying to pull away as fast as possible, because Cash still quite competitive in that Porsche. We can see what the Porsche can do with Dombre up in 2nd position, so he's got to watch out for that one. But back on board with the likes of Eduardes, because Vantagiato creeping closer and closer every single race. They've got to really start to watch out though as these next couple of laps come on. Keep your eyes peeled for this fight, because it might get intense.
Yeah, we'll do. For sure, it will get pretty intense come these latter stages, because the time is starting to run dry and run thin for some of these drivers. So it's at what point do you want to make a move? And I think also Eduardes is now starting to lose a little bit of time there to Dombre in front. Last time around, Dombre did a 40.2 and Anthony Eduardes is coming out the pits. So we now will be able to get a good lap time around this point. Vantagiato was 2/10 slower than Dombre, so losing a little bit of time there behind that fellow Mercedes AMG here. Will he be able to potentially go through here in towards the last corner? He'll search for it, and in towards the mirrors. I think he's trying to get that Mercedes to go wide there. So it was good thinking there from Vantagiato, but didn't quite do what he wanted to do with Eduardes, and he would just stick in there once again. They just passed there Adam Edwards as he heads his way slowly in towards turn number 1. I hope that's not a fuel issue. He was just slowly getting out of the way because he's kind of fighting in no man's land as he goes a lap down. Both Dombre and Eduardes did 40.9. Vantagiato 41.0. So yeah, Dombre was still faster that time around, but you know, they're still matching very, very close times as well. So I think it's now going to be a battle between the two Mercedes, unless Dombre makes a mistake in these latter stages.
Yeah, indeed, unless Dombre can do something in these last final stages, but Eduardes is slowly starting to feel it even more and more now, because Vantagiato does know the end of this race is slowly starting to creep in on him, and with just about 7 minutes left, he's got to make this overtake shortly if he wants any form of contention in that third place final podium spot. Ben Snell is completely scot-free at this point after his pit stops have been done. 8.5 seconds of a gap currently between himself and Dombre, and in a very much a no man's land in the Marlboro livery, trying to pull completely away, just a bit further behind the French Polynesian driver of Guillaume Dombre, just trying to lead off strong from Eduardes, who is slowly catching, but Eduardes does have Vantagiato behind, who's starting to put pressure, like we've mentioned multiple times. Deviak has also dropped off completely from that battle as they keep on flying, but a little bit of a black flag there for Deviak. That is going to be a drive-through penalty, and that is not going to be a great one. That's going to be a dropout from the top 5. Dowsett will get a bit of a benefit of the doubt. Up into the top 5 he will go, and Deviak will have to serve that penalty in the next coming laps if he does not want to be disqualified. He has just missed the the pit lane, but he will be going into the next couple of laps. So through Michelin curve he goes. Not going to be happy with that penalty that's been administered to his name, but thankfully still in 5th position. Let's hope he doesn't drop down too much. Peter Ferraro also holding out an 8th position with Scott Werman just a little bit further up in front. What can they do in the next coming couple of laps? Ian Noxie down in 12th, as a couple of the names we know should be up towards the top, such as D'Oliva down in 16th as well. Dombre looks to be fuel saving a little bit because he's losing a lot of time to the big Mercedes behind, and Vantagiato trying to look for any form of space to get in front of Eduardes, and Eduardes slowly starting to creep onto the backside of Dombre. So keep your eyes peeled on this battle for second, because it might be changing in the next 2 minutes.
Indeed, so we'll have to see how this all kind of how it all pans out. Dombre apparently took less fuel, so it worked in the short run, but in the long run, it is going to be a Tech G strategy in towards the chicane. They'll head. You see the potential to save any little ounce of fuel that he possibly can. I do wonder how much he's down by, because you hope that it's no longer than maybe half a lap or so. So we'll have to continue to keep saving throughout all the corners. Then try and get some bits done here. Up the inside goes Vantagiato, sends the Mercedes of Eduardes out wide, but on the exit he will not be able to get past this time around. He'll try and see if we can see on the inside, but you see that flash from Dombre, so I wonder if that was maybe an accidental hit the button, or unless there is a back marker in at the way. Let me have a look and see if our live timing gives us an idea. Could it be Ben Mitchell potentially? No, because he's way up the field. He's halfway around the lap already, so I think it was just an accidental hit of the lights button. Again, down in toward the next corner. Whereabouts do you save here? Because you know that you've got Eduardes, who are just keeping in taps here. You'll know that he'll go for the gap. This is going to be a great finish to this one here, Tristan.
Absolutely, because the end is slowly starting to become near, with just about 3 minutes left of racing here, and the battle for second is currently the hottest one out on track as it stands. There is so much oppression being shown towards Dombre at the time being. Eduardes and Vantagiato are not making this one easy coming into the next couple of corners. You can see how close they keep on getting, and Vantagiato is trying to get up onto the inside line of Eduardes and actually makes it stick coming into the next corner. Can he keep it though, and manages to keep it neatly in front of Eduardes? And now the roles have switched. Can Vantagiato chase onto the backside of Dombre in the next 3 minutes of racing? Only time is going to tell, as we have to wait for the next couple of minutes to pass us by. Vantagiato is going to try and make this overtake on Dombre, going on the outside line. Dombre comes into the pit lane though, not too sure what he's doing there, because he's already served his pit stop. and not actually having enough fuel to get to the end of this race. We did mention earlier that he was fuel saving a bit, trying to make it to the end, but just not enough to make it to the end. Jack has been disqualified, I think, for not serving that penalty, where it's slightly unconfirmed for the time being, but I did not see Deviak coming to serve that drive-through penalty, and currently sitting up in 4th position. It's showing the suspicion that he's decided not to come in. So a possible DSQ being shown for the Aston Martin driver. Only time is going to tell, though, with 2 minutes left of racing here and over 20 laps being done here at Jerez or Circuit de Jerez. And unfortunately for Deviak, that is the disqualification being shown to him, not coming in to serve a penalty. And that's unfortunately the first one we've seen here at the BISC GT3 Championship. Deviak will be the first disqualification of the race.
Yep, that's going to be massively unfortunate, just hitting his penalty limit, unfortunately, there for him. So he'll see himself out of this race. Deviak in the pit lane will definitely be out of this one. He'll drop to the bottom of the timing screens. But look at how massive this is, Tristan, because we're at a point now in this race where I believe we're on the final lap of this one, and it is a Mercedes 1, 2, 3, and as you're seeing here, Ben Snell will head over the line for the white flag lap in his beautiful white and red Marlboro Mercedes. That's an incredibly weird sentence to say when you say it like that. White and red Marlboro Mercedes. You'd expect McLaren to come out of your mouth then, but no, when you say Mercedes, it just doesn't quite sound right until that actually happens IRL. But yeah, with this result, you know, Mercedes-Benz has been a formidable manufacturer in the GT3 class, and it is showing here tonight. Meanwhile, battle's still going around. Michael Angeli still having to hold on to P9 here, ahead of Ian Noxie, who's been had a few knocks. This race has had the most ideal of races tonight, but he is still trying to attack here for what will be P9 on the road. It has been pretty difficult for a couple of our drivers around, but look in the background there is Don Bray, who will be so disappointed. He'll be massively disappointed. He took a risk and it just didn't work. But oh, this is going to be a big old switch here for Ian Noxie. Can he get the traction? No, he doesn't. The Ferrari of Angeli does go defensive into the right-hander, and again just can't seem to get that position on the exit. He'll try and squeeze the gap, but again it's just not quite there.
Just not quite there indeed, but we've officially hit the 35-minute mark, and no, Ian Noxie is doing absolutely everything that he can right now to get past Angeli, but it might not be enough time because we have officially hit to the inside line. Can he make it into the next corner? It looks like he's managed to hold it. Angeli has unfortunately forfeited that one, but it's over the line goes Ben Snell. Yet again, another race win, and further extending his championship reign. Vantagiato about 15 seconds behind will come in to finish 2nd position, holding off from Eduardes, but Ian Noxie has been able to compensate and get one more position before the checkered flag. Vantagiato, Eduardes comes across in 3rd. Dowsett will come across in 4th position, a little bit further behind, and the likes of Peter Ferraro, also one of the championship contenders as of yet, in P5, with Scott Poorman just a little bit further behind him. Cash will come across the line, Andrew Cash in 7th in the Ferrari, with Luke Broadbent a little bit further in the only Corvette car on the grid. Ian Noxie will be super satisfied with that final overtake and will finish 9th position in the big Ford Mustang. Angeli losing out just close to the line, and unfortunately for Dombre, down below the top 10, will finish 11th position after running out of fuel. Ben Mitchell, after a little bit of an unfortunate race being tapped around a bit, will finish 12th position. But that is your race with Ben Mitchell, one of the last drivers to come across the line. What an awesome race it has been here. Loads of action, and the first triple Mercedes podium we've seen this season.
Yeah, that's going to be a huge step to the for the German kind of manufacturer. And I'm sure that going through our results, they'll be very happy. Really intrigued to see how this one works out. Ben Snell is your winner. 14.5 seconds ahead of Ivan Vantagiato. The Italian will be ahead of Anthony Eduardes. And we see Michael Dowsett ahead of Peter Ferraro, who fought back to P5. The Italian driver putting a stunning result there. Scott Borman ahead of Andrew Cash, with Luke Broadbent in P4 and Ian Noxie in P9. Michael Angeli round out the top 10. Then we'll move, I think, further down in just a moment's time, where we find Guilherme Dombre ahead of Bennett Mitchell with Nick Green in P13, where we see the lap downs. Adam Eduardes, a disqualification for Steven Deviak with Dante Olivia and Alex Spinozzi, who will be our 2 retirees from this race here at Jerez. So it will be a solid result, and Tristan, you know more about the championship than I do, so take us through it.
Yeah, absolutely. That is going to be a great further extension there for Ben Snell. And now leading that championship from the previous round, and now further extending that win. So great stuff there for the likes of Ben Snell. But I believe we do have some time for interviews. We've got Ben Snell and, sorry, apologies, no time for interviews actually. We do have Ben Snell and Ivan Vantagiato waiting there, but we have reached the limit here for today's racing. It's been a great one though. And I mean, Adam, just final words on what you thought about tonight's racing.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting. Of course, that kind of heat race saw quite a lot of risks taken, especially during the start. But then you go into kind of the further kind of territories where you had that extended race up to 35 minutes, and then it had the reverse grid race. I do love a good reverse grid race. It really brings out some of the best drivers out there. It really does give them a bit of a challenge rather than having 4 or 5 cars of battle. You're having to go through a whole entire grid. So yeah, if it's done right, it can be done extremely well. Especially if there is an opportunity to come back, I will definitely take it, because this seems like a brilliant championship. So many competitive drivers up in here. There's always a battle at the front, there's always a battle in the midfield, there's always a battle at the back, and that's exactly what we want in a race. But overall, Jerez has really treated us well here.
Absolutely, indeed. It's been a great race here at Jerez, or otherwise known as Circuit de Jerez. A very complicated track for some of the drivers, and a couple just struggling to find their grip. But in 2 weeks' time, on the 24th of November, we will be heading to the Red Bull Ring, one of the most inaugural racetracks among multiple motorsport titles, and we get to see it here at the BISC GT3 Championships. The same sponsored titles, with Ben Snell leading the championship. We'll see you on the 24th at Red Bull Ring. Have a fantastic night. My name has been Tristan Herbst. Joining me in the commentary box has been Adam Reed, and our production manager Sam Fitzpatrick in the background. We'll see you soon. Have a great night further. Cheers.